Hi, Tom Kofer with OnPoint Consulting. Today we're very excited to be sharing individual recording learning sessions from our highly successful and free OnPoint Sage 300 CRE web conference attended by Sage 300 users from all over the country. We had 10 great web learning sessions over a 2-day period that were really well attended by all, and wanted to pass them on to you as part of OnPoint's continuing commitment to you, our Sage 300 users, in case you didn't have a chance to attend. This session that I'm introducing really focuses on subcontracts and subcontract compliance best practices in Sage 300 CRE, and really it's all about how to understand and how to better understand and better use commitments for better tracking of subcontracts and sub-compliance requirements and reporting. You know, we were really able to deliver this successful webinar series because of our deep pool of very experienced senior Sage 300 consultants, trainers, software developers, custom software developers, custom report developers, and we're also, in addition to those deep and wide resources for support training and consulting, we provide Sage 300 customers with what we call optimization and business process review services, really to help do two things. One is to determine if your Sage existing Sage system can be enhanced and give you a roadmap for the near to possibly long-term future, or if it's time to take a look at replacing Sage and moving on. And we get a lot of questions from many of you about that process. You know, which makes sense, and we can help you with that. You know, we've helped well over hundreds of Sage 300 users over the past 30 years, and we're really here to help you gain the maximum use of your existing software and investment, extend the life of your investment, and really, just to summarize, we're here to help. So if you find this video helpful and like it, then please like us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and find us at onpoint-software.com. We appreciate it. Thank you, and enjoy the session with our compliments. And most of all, stay well, friends.
Good afternoon, everybody. And I believe now I'm showing my screen. So we're going to go over the subcontracts and subcontractor compliance. So the learning objectives of this session is utilizing commitments in Sage. So we're going to go through and look at the setup of the commitments, the tracking of them in accounts payable, how we use them in the accounts payable module, and some of the inquiries and reports for them, and then tracking the compliance, some of the features and the setup and processing and reporting of the compliance area. So on commitments, there's a few settings in JC settings for the commitment and the forms, and then in PJ there's some settings for the change order forms if you're using PJ. And for today, I'm going to be using the job cost area for anything where it can be done in either one of them, just because for anybody that has never seen PJ, trying to look at it from that point of view, they can't correlate that back to job cost. But anybody that has moved to PJ still understands the job cost side of it. So then there's processing of the commitments, and you can do those either in job cost, or if you have PJ, do them there. Change orders, job cost versus PJ, and then there's the AP invoice entry to a commitment, and then the reporting. So in the subcontractor compliance, the features, there's lien waivers, there's conditional, typically before it's paid, and then unconditional for after they have actually received the check. Then we keep track of the vendor insurance, and then also the certified reports, and those are reports coming to you, not you sending out certified reports. Then some miscellaneous items, and those are user defined, and I'll show you where you set those up. It could be like a W-9, contract licenses, permits, a signed contract. And so you could also have punch lists, drug tests, some different items out there. So on the subcontractor compliance under setup, there's the certified reports service, and I put this section here with all the check marks out here, and that's just directly from the help menu because I don't have it up and running on mine. But setting up that, it's mainly it's for the time that the system generates the certified report expectations. So it runs daily and kind of updates itself with when you should expect those certified reports based on the job. Then there's the custom descriptions, is where we do some of those miscellaneous things that we had just talked about, putting your own descriptions out there. There's quite a few settings in the AP settings that we have to set up in order to get this compliance thing to work. Then on the vendor setup, there is an insurance/compliance tab that needs to be filled out, especially on your subs. Then under the job setup, there is a job compliance screen where we tell it what we want it to do for this particular job. And then we'll go in to set up a commitment and show you what little tabs are in that commitment that deal with the compliance. Then under processing, show you some of the warning messages that you can get in accounts payable when somebody is out of compliance. Then we have the lien waivers, and then managing compliance items from accounts payable or PJ, and then some of the different reports for the compliance. So subcontract, some of the tips on subcontract, the change order entry depends on if you're using PJ or not. If you have PJ, you have to enter the commitments and the change orders in the PJ module. And then forms such as the subcontract and lien waivers can be modified with Crystal reports, because I know Texas has its specific verbiage, or there's certain parts of it that that it has to state certain things in order to be a valid lien waiver. So you can change those with Crystal reports. And then the custom fields, if you wanted to add those fields to print on any of the forms, because you have that custom field out there to track something, and you may want it printed on the forms, that's also in Crystal to add those fields. And also you can use the send feature when you're going to print the reports or the forms. There's a send button, and instead of hitting start first, that it just goes to your printer, you can click on that send button and it can email it to different people. So I know we went through that because we want to spend more time in the software. So are there any questions, Lori?
So far, Linda, there are no questions.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so okay, let me look at my list here. So under JC settings, so for the commitment, here is some items, the default stuff for the commitment that you can set up, and then there's a checklist if you wanted to use about getting the contract back signed and all. And then the forms. These are the forms that it used for subcontract, the subcontract change order. And then the last one, the change order, that is the owner change order. So if you need to modify any of those, then these all have that CR next to it. So they are Crystal reports. So you'd want to take a copy of this one to make it your own and modify it, and then direct this here to pull those revised ones up. Okay. And then I will just pop over to PJ to show you where the change management is if you have PJ. So these are the change request form, the change order forms, subcontract change orders. So this holds for a subcontract, this holds just the change order form. The actual subcontract still comes from job cost. Okay. So those are the two places for the forms. And so now we're just going to create a commitment. And then, so in job cost, that's under commitments. And I'm going to use a job that does not use PJ change management. So it's 03001, and I'll just call this one 99. And so I'm going to use A1 electric. So this is some electrical stuff. And A1 electric. So here is one of the warning messages. The vendor is not in compliance, and it has for the vendor insurance certificates are out of compliance. So you can select a different vendor, ignore it, look at the details on it. So general liability, automobile, workers' comp, and umbrella are all expired, because this is looking as of today, and this sample data is back in 2013. So, and then if you clicked on the compliance management, and I went to 03001, then it lists here the lien waivers, any kind of certified reports, and then the insurance items. So here it is, a subcontract, and I'm going to date it. Let me see, this is actually, they're actually in December of 13. So 10%, that's one of those ones coming from the default. So 03001, cost code for electrical. It's been bought out, but yes, we're going to continue. So again, it warns me about exceeding the estimated cost. So we'll continue. But I wanted to show you the insurance tab here. And because they have this umbrella insurance and workers' comp insurance came from their vendor master file. And then if you have specific ones, policy numbers for this particular job, then you can fill in these policy numbers and the effective dates for those. And these are required. And so anything like, because I'm going to leave it just like this with no dates or anything because I haven't received the certificate yet. But if it says required, it will start warning you about that insurance right away. Like these, the general liability insurance, it doesn't say required, so it's not going to warn me about that, or the automobile. But the umbrella and workers' comp, it will start warning me about those and say that they're expired because there is no date at all on them. And think that was the checklist, was that checklist from the settings that we said that we wanted these 4 to be on there. So we can put a due date in there of when we want those back. And if we have a custom report, we can know what those are. But when you put a check mark in them, that would mean that you have received it. Okay, so we'll save that and we will commit it. So the start date of the commitment, it says which might change the certified reports that are expected, and that's that certified reports. It's the expected date of it. So, and then it's asked you if you want a list of expected certified reports of a commitment. So, yes, we can. Well, do I have a record locked? No. Okay, well, sorry about that. It locked up on me.
Linda, we do have a question.
Okay.
What does checking the release to accounting box do in the enter commitment box?
Well, that, because of like PJ, because you might have something, if it was over there. So let me see if that commitment stayed here. 300199. I think I said -99. See, it lost part of it there. Okay, so usually when you save the commitment and commit it, kind of releases it to accounts payable to be able to use. So I'm gonna save this commitment the way it was and commit it. And now let me go back in. See how that release to accounting then automatically got check marked. So there's not as much over here, but when you're using this commitments over in PJ, there is that the release to accounting has more of a meaning. So, but you could release it and then, I don't know, I've never really clicked it. Then it may not ask you if you want to commit it. But it does automatically check it. And then it wants to print out a journal. Okay, and then change orders, which this change orders is change orders to the owner. This is change orders to your commitments. So your subcontracts or purchase orders. Again, I'm doing it through job cost versus PJ, and the jobs based on the contract that's set up in contracts, it tells it whether it uses PJ change management or not. So I specifically chose this job because it did not use PJ change management. Whoops. So it automatically defaults with commitment change or the next commitment change order number. And so we're going to change something. And we'll do, and again, the same thing applies here, the releasing to accounting. And usually we have it as not issued until we get it in, and then I change it to approved. So this commitment has one line, and so that's the only line that's showing up here. So if I wanted to make a change order to that same cost code and category, then I do it on that line. Otherwise, I'd come down to the next line and change the cost code or the category. So we're gonna just do $100 on here. So that is raising their commitment by the $100. So let me make sure. No, see this in here, it doesn't, oh, because I didn't change it to approved. So changing it to approved, then it automatically has that release to accounting check marked. Then a journal is going to a print file. So you would probably want to name your print files a little bit different. I'm just giving it a number. Y'all would probably want to be a little bit more organized about that. But as far as the setup of starting to use commitments and commitment change orders, are there any questions? Lori, is there anything come in?
There are no other questions right now.
Okay, thank you. So then we'll put an entry against that. So we'll enter invoices. So this here, again, showing your warning messages. So if you wanted to look at the details for insurance certificates, it says that they're all expired, even though some of them don't have a date in them, but I said required. So 030-1, and we'll do 1231. 13. And let's do just, I think that was the whole amount. 12, 31, 13. So then here in the commitment, it's bringing up the commitment list only for those commitments for A1 Electric. So, and we did the 99 one.
Linda, there is
So,
another question if you can take it.
okay.
What makes one job need to use PJ versus JC for setting commitments up?
It's just if you have PJ and that particular job is using PJ change management, you'd want to do them in PJ because the reports that you get out, if you set it, if you would set a commitment up in job cost, it doesn't bring it onto a report in PJ. So you just like to be consistent. If it's using the PJ change management, then do everything for that one in PJ. Otherwise, you're doing everything for it in job cost. Okay. So this one here for vendor 100 on that commitment, there's 2 commitment insurance certificates. So the message that we got when we were up top here, it said 4 insurance certificates because it was looking at the master file. When we're looking down here at the bottom, it's coded to the commitment. So it's specifically looking at that commitment one. And 2 miscellaneous and then 3 lien waivers. So we can do the details here. So it's looking specifically at workers' comp and umbrella insurance. And then it's listing out some lien waivers through 430, 528, and another one 430 for this vendor on that job. But this is a different commitment than the one that I'm on, but it is for this vendor on that job. It's given you all the compliance messages for that. But if you take a look here with the workers' comp and umbrella insurance, those are the only two that I said on this commitment were required. The auto and the general liability, I didn't put that required on there. So that's why it's not giving me that warning. So if you want it to start warning you right away, put required. And that goes for even when you set it up in their master file. And we'll go into this vendor in their master file and I'll show you that again. So since this commitment is only charged to that job one cost code, it goes ahead and fills that out for you because you can't charge it anyplace else. And it's a future period, that's fine. And let me make sure. Yeah. So I had 10% retainage on it. I was pretty sure. I don't know why it didn't calculate 10% here. Okay, so we can accept that invoice, but that's how you enter an invoice against a subcontract. So we'll go ahead and post them. So I want to look and show you the vendor setup where it got the information. So here's the insurance and compliance tab. So the certificates of insurance here, when we were up at the top, just putting the invoice in, it just pulled up the vendor. It didn't know where we were going to charge it to yet. But this proof required on those two is why it gave me the 4, because there was those two and then these two down here. This one doesn't have proof required, but the date is clearly expired. And then this one, you require it, these two, the company, remember the company was there on that commitment, but none of the other information, because we require it per commitment. If that wasn't checked, then this other information would have filled out over there. But that proof required is very important. If you set up a subcontractor and you don't have their insurance information yet, you want to at least click the proof required. Okay. So then some of the subcontractor compliance features and setup. So there's the lien waivers. So let me go into AP settings, because there's quite a few things in AP under the AP settings, this compliance settings. Because when it first came out, it was at probably do not create. So you actually have to turn it on to say create. And then once it creates, then you want to create partial lien waivers at either invoice posting, payment selection, or invoice payment. So you have your choice there, and then your lien waiver through date is, either invoice date, last day of the month for that invoice, or the payment date. And I believe probably payment date is grayed out because it's not a required field in the settings. So conditional ones, I would say probably you would want to do it upon invoice payment, because that invoice may get changed between the time that you post it and the time that you actually pay it. And then these are the report formats. They are crystal reports. So for the partial and the final, these are the forms that it's using. And then here's the certified reports compliance check. When it runs that service, it's on the system date versus the invoice date. And then for unconditional, again, you have to tell it to start creating it. And then it's based on the invoice payment. No, it must not have been grayed out because the payment date. This one is the lien waiver through date is the payment date. So then here's the partial and final lien waiver forms that it's using. And then up here is your compliance warning settings. And it goes through lien waivers, certified reports, insurance, and miscellaneous. So, you know, display warning message during invoice entry like it did. Upon invoice selection, if it hasn't been cleared, then it will display it again. And then you can block the payment of the invoice if it has outstanding lien waivers. Certified reports is the same 3 items were check marked. The insurance, it will just do the warning messages, but it's not going to stop you from paying the invoice just because you don't have a certificate of insurance. For the miscellaneous, the same thing. It gives you warning messages, but it's going to still go ahead and let you pay it. So those are the setup in the AP settings. Under the compliance settings. And let me show you, I said the user defined things is those miscellaneous items. And those are actually under common task. Whoops. Well, sorry about that. Closed up on me. Okay, common task file, company settings, custom descriptions. So that is AP miscellaneous compliance type. And so when you're on that line, you customize the list. And so this is what's out there right now. And so the default, it comes up to contractor's license. But you can add more to it and you can arrange them. If you want something to come in between here, you click on these move buttons, and you can also change the default. And then this here just shows you what's there. But you just have to click on the customize list. Then also another thing that's out there that deals with this is the jurisdiction. So you can customize the list, and so these are some counties or states, and so that you would want one, say, not specified as the default, because you don't want it to pull up one of these other ones and have it be there by default. So you want that not specified default out there. So that is on the jurisdiction. And you see that in job cost on the job setup. So let's go look at the job compliance and job cost setup. So we're doing 03001. So in the job and job compliance, so here is that jurisdiction that I was talking about. And so it would default to not specified until you change it. And then it says generate the lien waivers for a subcontractor or a supplier. And this is the type of vendor that they are. And so I'll go back to the vendor setup to show you that again, because a lot of people just leave it at the first one. But here, because of this, you do want to specify it's subcontractor or supplier. And then you have the choice of other or equipment supplier also. So minimum amount for the lien waivers, if you want to change that dollar amount, you just click on this and change it. And also if you want to change it for the supplier. And then it does require final compliance approval. So the job won't be in full compliance unless these are all done. So then conditional and unconditional waivers, what we saw in accounts payable is the default, but here, if you wanted to change it for this particular job, you could change it here. Okay. So I was going to take you back, to the vendor setup. To show you the vendor type. And that's what you see right here. So A1 Electric is a subcontractor, but you wouldn't want to just set up all your vendors and just leave them and not change this, because then it thinks they're a subcontractor and wants to do lien waivers on all the ones that are a subcontractor type. So you want, if they're G&A type people or whatever, make those other, or I mean, you define what these are when you originally set up your software. So whatever you have these as, just be sure to start using them, keep using them, and have them the correct vendor type on there, and then everything else will work out. Okay. I think that's all of the setup side of it. And you saw the warnings. So the lien waivers are reports. Well, I was talking about lien waivers first. So the lien waivers, there's the conditional, final, and there's a lot of different versions of these. So the ones that are put into the system are the ones that are the crystal reports, because these other ones were out there from before. So you'd want to be sure to pick the ones that say lien waiver conditional, say partial, the one with the CR by it, and then the final with the CR by it, unconditional with the CR by it. Those are the four that are set up in all of your settings. The other ones, if you wanted to, you could get rid of those if you didn't use them anymore. Or if you left them on there through security, only give people the access to the ones with the CR by it.
Linda, we have a question.
Okay.
Is there a way to enter your own lien waivers if you don't have the full version of Crystal Reports?
You can, if you don't have the full version. So is that what you said, Lori?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So yeah, when you have the version of Crystal that you can buy to use with Sage, you can change things and do everything in Crystal that has to deal with Sage, but you can't use it with another product or, you know, just out there on its own. It's just connected to Sage. So you should, even that partial version, you should be able to pull these Crystal report designs up and modify them. I would save them just like these here. I appended some other initials on it just to keep them pure the way that they came with Sage, but then have your own company. You might put your company name in front of them or something different about them, because these under this exact name, those are, let's say, owned by Sage. So if they want to update them, they will overwrite those just like they would a report design. If you leave it in the same location with the same name, they can override them at any time. So you always want to make it into another folder, like custom reports or something. And put your company name on it or company initials on it, and then bring it on to here. You can replace this one here with your revised version of it, but just don't have it be the exact same name as they use, because if anything goes wrong with your design, we always have their design to look at and say, why is theirs working but mine is not? Was that the only question so far?
Yes, ma'am, that was the only question so far, but I have a comment here too, and it is feel free to attend our crystal session on Friday. We're having a session on crystal tomorrow.
Right. Okay, yeah. Okay. And so these are the lien waivers here. And so being that it's sample data, let me see if I can get it to bring something up. So 03 dash, what? Issue date. We'll go way back in time. So it didn't really bring any information into here, but this is the way this particular report looks. And like I said, with Texas, I mean, it has to be very specific, and that's where you'd need to modify these reports. So then the other compliance reports for subcontractors, certified reports by job. So just a lot of helpful reports to deal with the compliance issues. And they are all have the CR by them, so they are all crystal reports. Where are we at on time, Lori?
We have 30 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
And we do have a question as well.
Okay, go ahead.
Do these lien waiver reports pull in multiple invoices when payments are made, or do they print one report for each invoice?
No, it'll be for the dollar amount of the check. And so there can be multiple invoices on that check, but it would be by job. Okay, and I know some of them, they used to have a check mark by them. Let me see if like this old one does. No, so there, and you could have it done in Crystal is that it would put a secondary page onto it and list out the invoices that lien waiver covered. So it can be the overall lien waiver of here's the dollar amount of the check on that job, and then here are the invoices that it paid. Okay. So then in managing the compliance, here is the subcontractor compliance task. So for this particular job, here are the items. There's some unconditional partial waivers. This one is a secondary vendor to Sorrento Interiors that hasn't been received yet. And then here's some conditional waivers, and when they're issued, the dollar amount for them. So when they've been received, then you just click this box, received. And then let's say that on this one, the second one, that they didn't get it, they lost it, whatever. Instead of having to go back through the report menu and getting it, you can I don't know why, whoops. Those are outstanding. Used to be able to right click on that. Let me see if it's this. Yeah, so that report right there is what it's going to do. And let me see if it will, yeah. Well, that one's a 0. Let's see if we can find something better than that. Okay, well now it's, okay, bear with me just a second. All I can get out of that, I don't know why it's, okay, let's go back into that again and see if that actually was 0. Yeah, well, invoice amount 0. So let's do this one here. Okay, so here's one that actually has a dollar amount on it. So instead of having to go back and find it through the reports menu, in the compliance, you can actually tell it to print that specific one and get it off to them. And see, like they're not that pretty on these. That's why most of the people do customize them. But it has the dollar amount and it's from the Timberline Construction. It's for concrete and paving material performed at the specific job address. And then it was to Northwest Concrete. Okay. See, I had closed out of the top and that's why it got locked up. I didn't close the preview and then close this right here. So this is just where you come in to mark them received. And then if there's any of the certified reports, they'd show up here. And then your insurance. So these are the items on the insurance that it wants for these different commitments. So once you receive the insurance on that, you can fill out the dates and the policy, put received on there. And then these are the miscellaneous items. So these two are required. It said a drug test and another, just a document of some type, and then required for final compliance was this punch list. So the other ones are ones that you wanted, but it's not required for the final compliance. Okay. So, and I think we went through the reports out of here. They are under the compliance, and we'll just pull one up, the compliance by vendor. Let's do 100.03-001. So it just tells you on the insurance and how you have it marked and required per commitment. And then drug test result and a miscellaneous document, they are outstanding. Lien waivers outstanding in that dollar amount. Secondary vendor, these are on these different, there are for that job, but these are just different commitments that are out there. So you can limit it to one commitment if you wanted to. But this is just giving you an overview of that vendor so that you can get everything taken care of if you have that vendor on the phone and say, okay, this is what I need. But if you want to do one commitment, then you could fill that commitment in there. I know I had said, I think it was in this class, there was the send button. So here is the send button. So when you click on that one, okay, well, I don't have my default thing set up, but here is where it's going to attach that report that we were just looking at as a PDF, and you could send it to somebody at A1 Electric. And so they could get that, and you don't have to email it to them or something. You can just send them the actual report. And then this is your subject and then your message that you want to tell them. And this is available on anything that you can print out, you can send it. So once that's filled out, then you would hit the start button. Okay. I believe I've gone through everything on her list, and we actually have 15 minutes left. So are there any other questions?
There are no more questions at this time.
Okay. Well, if anybody thinks of any questions, we'll be happy to answer those for you. And with instructions on that, I will turn it back over to Barclay. But this was the recap of what we did. We learned about how using the commitments in Sage and then tracking of the compliance items. Right, so there you go, Barclay.
Awesome, thank you so much. And as with the other sessions, if you guys think of other questions that you came up with that you didn't have a chance to ask, feel free to email those to us at clientcare@onpoint-software.com. Again, you can visit our website for our Sage 300 procedure guides, and those are free on our website, as well as additional webinars and videos. And please watch your email over the next few days for a survey. We really do want your feedback and would like to know what topics that you need additional information on. But with that, everybody have a good afternoon. And if you're joining us for our next session, it is Inquiry Designer. Thank you and have a good afternoon.